Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the OSA Live. What's tonight? It's like Tuesday or Wednesday night. And oh, Scott, I'm live.
Yeah. Get out of here. What's happening, guys? It's OSA Live on a Tuesday with Saltwater Alley. Oh, on a Wednesday. I totally lied. I'm so used to doing this. I'm so used to doing this on Tuesday. Allie, hop on in. Let's go.
All right. Oh, we get a little closer.
Get a little closer. Why don't you start the show here? So what is happening, guys? We are live. What time is it? 7:30? Just about.
Are we live?
And yeah, we are.
Okay.
What are we talking about tonight?
So tonight we're talking about RO, like one of the most important things about the reefing hobby. So I just wanted to kind of go over the one that we offer, and it's basically the basics of RO and why it's so important. Then we're also going to talk about some auto top-offs because, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that too. So
I am your Vanna White this evening, Allie. So whatever you want me to grab, you tell me what to grab.
All right. Well, first of all, I think we need to talk about what RO is and like why it's important. So all tap water, including well water, because a lot of people say, well, I have a well, so it's fine. But all tap water has TDS, which is total dissolved solvents. And it's, especially if you have town water, it's treated. And it's usually treated with chlorine and all sorts of other things, sometimes bleach if there's an issue. Sometimes things get in the water, like E. coli. You know, some people around here know that has happened not that long ago. So we just want to make sure with an RO system that our water is getting clean, because all that stuff can affect your reef tank and even your fish-only tanks, but mainly your reef tank. It's your corals that are the most sensitive to those things. So an RO system is important. So what exactly is RO? This video is mainly for the newbies here. Most seasoned reefers already kind of know what RO is. They've heard all about it. They know that stuff. But for any of the newbies here, we're going to kind of just break it down for you so you kind of get an idea, because it can be a little confusing, and like a lot of people say, well, why? Why do you need that? So I just wanted to kind of go over that. So RO, so if you know what osmosis is, if we go all the way back to high school and we think about science, what is osmosis? So osmosis is when a water with a low saline moves into an area of high saline. So when we reverse that, it's the opposite. So that's what we're doing with an RO system. There's a membrane in the RO system that does that. So if we pick this up here, my Vanna White's a little behind.
Vanna White is taking a little bit better.
All right, so this is the RO system that we offer here. We run a different one because we have so much RO to make. We make water all day long, and we sell it, we use it, so we're always making water. So ours is actually like almost, I think it's a 12-stage system.
Yeah,
so
really
it's huge.
One.
This one's a 4-stage, but you can get all sorts of different RO systems that range from 3-stage all the way, like I said, to 12. You can add stages to a lot of them. So
this one right here, the 4-stage, this is our number one go-to. So the 4-stage is the one that we pretty much, for any of our services, for the everyday person, is the best bang for your buck, especially the 100 gallon per day. These are the ones that we pretty much go for anytime we're doing an install or anything like that.
So TDS, the problem with TDS is it feeds algae basically. So there's so much in tap water that can lead to algae problems. And a lot of times we see people come in that just can't get rid of algae. It's like, what is the problem? And we ask them, well, do you use RO? And most of the time the answer is no. Usually they just didn't know, or it was just easier to just use tap water, which, I mean, it is. But in this hobby, we can't always go the easy way because you'll eventually run into a lot of issues down the road.
The major issues we also run into is problems with fish. You might not see this, but things like hill and other issues with fish is one of the main causes from not using the right water source.
Yep. So
that we see that, especially with fish with, like you'll see big gouges inside that because there's a lot of excess metals that are in these waters that are actually affecting the fish.
Yep. And it like I said, it depends on what water you have. Town water varies from town to town, and some water's not bad, but every bit of water, like tap water, well water, all has TDS in it. Whether it's cleaner than others, that doesn't mean that it's okay, really, necessarily, because you're still going to run into those issues. Tap water has nitrates in it, has phosphates in it. So if you have an algae problem, when you keep doing water changes, it's not making it any better. It's actually because you're just adding nitrates and phosphates, which feeds algae. So usually it's just not making it any better. And you're always going to run into issues unless you kind of switch over to an RO system. There are exceptions out there. There are some people that use tap water and don't have an issue. So this isn't like 100%, but 90% of the time, it can be an issue if you're just using your tap
You can
water.
also consider chloramines and chlorines that are
Yep.
inside the water as well. These have major component factors as well.
And those are actually what affect the fish half the time is the chlorine, chloramine, and the heavy metals. There are removers you can add, like chlorine removers, but they don't remove a lot of the other stuff. So they remove the chlorine, they remove the chloramine, but there's so much in there in our water. There can be arsenic in the water. There can be all sorts of things. There's iron, there's copper, there's all these things that are still affecting the fish, and they're still affecting your corals. And like I said, not all water is horrible, but a lot of the times there is stuff added. So now we're just going to kind of talk about what the system has and how it works. So first, there's the sediment filter. So what this sediment filter does is basically what it sounds. It filters out any sediment in the water. So it gets rid of any sand or silt that might be in the water. This is especially if it's well water, because usually sometimes there can be sand in it. And basically that is just so it doesn't ruin the membrane inside the filter.
So if I was looking at this one, which one is that, Allie?
That is this one here. It's just a white one. So as it gets dirty, it turns usually like an orangey color. Because we make so much water every single day. We have to change ours all the time.
We actually change ours, believe it or not, guys, once every 10 days.
Yeah.
That's how much we change our entire system.
It gets dirty very quickly. Most normal people don't have to change it nearly that often. Sometimes you really just judge by the color in your TDS. So I'll get into that after. But so usually, like I said, it just depends on how quickly it gets dirty and how quickly you got that. And then you can change it based on the color because it'll start to get gross and you'll know it's time to change it. So basically, like I said, it gets rid of all the sediment that's in there, and it's going to help make sure that this membrane doesn't get damaged because that can't handle any bigger sediment. So that's what that does. Then we have the carbon block. So the carbon block, it absorbs any kind of contaminant. So it absorbs chlorine, it absorbs chloramine, it absorbs phosphates, nitrates, it absorbs all of that. And again, this one will change. This one will change color too. You'll see that one will be a different color. But then after that, we go to our DI. But we're going to talk about the RO here, the membrane on the top. So like I told you what RO is. So basically what this does is it forces that water, that RO happens inside this membrane. So it's forcing the saline water through a filter. So it's taking out any nitrates, phosphates, like I said. And it's actually breaking it down to the molecular level, which is really cool. But that's actually the DI. Sorry, I got that confused. So the DI, what this is it's a nuclear deionization resin. So there's actually two colors in there. If you've ever done this before, it's got two different colored little ion beads. So one removes there's a cation and an anion. We're gonna get scientific here real quick. So there's a cation and anion resin inside there. So what that does is that they remove positively and negatively charged ions from the water, and they actually change them to hydrogen and hydroxide ions, and then they combine to make H2O. So we just got really scientific there. But basically, to break it down for you, what it's doing is it's filtering out that water down all the way down to the molecular level, which is really crazy. And most filters don't do that. So this is the stuff here. You can buy the whole cartridge there, so you don't have to do it, or you can get the refill, so you can just keep refilling your cartridge, which is definitely the money saver there. But that's
usually what you do is you get this one, and then you buy this one, so you can keep refilling it. That's what we do here. It's the exact same thing. But this is like the main point to the actual when you get into it. Yep.
So yeah, we have three sediments, we have 2 carbons, and then we have 3 DI resin.
That's what we run here on ours.
This one comes with 1, but like I said, we are making way more water than you'll ever need to make at home, so that's why we have such a big system. But the one we have here is the Aquatic Life, and it's great. It's a great RO system. And what usually people do is you hook it up to like your washing machine, at your water,
right,
on your washing machine.
You could do that. You could do so in the field and the services. We'll actually try if we can do an installation where we're putting a sump system in the basement, right? We'll put a shop sink or a slop sink in the back. And if we can hook up the RO system to the slop sink where it goes from there, have a double header, and then now you have water for when you're cleaning things like that. But that's usually the easiest. So now we also have a waste drain.
Yep. So once water goes through this DI, it actually, your wastewater is going to go out, and then you have your clean water, and your clean water is going to go into your storage tank. So you've probably seen ours here. We have really big storage tank. They're 200 gallons. Usually at home, people do, whatever size they need, depending on the size tank you have and how much water you want to have on hand at all times. And then once we get that, so we've got our RO water, we got that all set. Now we're going to have a storage tank. Like I said, we're going to have an auto shutoff valve. So this is super important because if you forget that you turned on your RO system, you're going to have a lot of water on your floor, either the next morning or when you get home from work. So
I know from personal experience.
So this is where this comes into hands.
This is the most important thing. Listen,
it is.
This is the most important thing you can have on your aquarium system.
Trust
In fact, wait a minute. Before I was going to get into the other thing. In all honesty, if I'm doing a service and I'm going to build a system, because we had an issue one time when one of these failed, I will never install this one just the way it is. We actually put, when we install the slop sinks, now at the top of it, after this, we put a bulkhead in, and then that goes to a PVC that goes to the slop sink, so it can never overflow the bulkhead again. But if anyone has overflowed one of their RO systems, it is an absolute nightmare. And everyone out there who's ever happened to, I'm sure some people can wave their hand and say they've done it.
Yep. Yeah. So basically it's a float switch. So as your reservoir fills, it goes up and it shuts off your system. And then as the water goes down, it turns it back on automatically. So definitely a good thing to have. Would highly recommend. So then I was talking about TDS. So a TDS meter is super important to have. Basically what this is doing is it's measuring your total dissolved solvents that's in your water. So as your RO system gets dirty, and usually with normal people, it can be up to 6 months or so. It depends on how much you're using your RO system. But that's going to basically, you can hook that up in line so it can read a constant reading of what your in and your out TDS is. So as your TDS gets a little hot, usually, I mean, it depends. Some people change it when it reaches like 2 or even 4. We change ours right away. As soon as it starts to read really any TDS, we change it. Because we're selling it, we want everyone to have perfect water.
Correct.
So we always make sure it's 0.
We do the best we can to make sure that it's zero. Not even like for our corals with so many, we have thousands and thousands of corals here. We don't want that issue.
Yep.
And we don't want Drew to have that issue as well when you're buying it.
Exactly. So we check it every day. As soon as it reads anything, we change those. So definitely highly recommend having one of those two. They're definitely something you should have if you have an RO system. That way you know if you need to change your stuff. All right, so we've talked about RO and why it's important, and then now I kind of want to talk about auto top-offs. This kind of seems like a weird transition, but I think they kind of go hand in hand. You're going to be topping off your tank with RO. If you're doing, if you have a reef tank, you definitely want to have an auto top-off on there. Best thing I ever did was put an auto top-off. It was getting to be such a pain to have to top off my tank by hand every single day. It's just awful. So I got a reef reader here, the ATO. I really love it. It's really good for if you have a sump, and it's all in one. Everything comes in it. It's got the pump, it's got the hosing, it's got the whole thing. It's got an eye that goes on the inside, and then it's got the actual device itself that goes on the outside, and it's just a magnet, and then you just plug it in, and it works. It's great. I love it. It's also a smart ATO. So basically after the first few times that it fills, it measures how long it's on, so that if it goes any longer than that, it beeps, and it beeps and beeps and beeps, beeps, and doesn't stop until you fix it. So it basically it's a leak detection. So if water's leaving your tank more than usual, like normal evaporation, it lets you know, which I really love because it's it's great. And then we got this one here, the Tsunami. I don't know a ton about it because I've never used it, but it's really good for nano tanks because it doesn't have the eye, like the all-in-one tanks. It doesn't have the eye on it. And some people, the all-in-ones, like the Innovative Marines, I know that they have painted backs on their sumps and the water box. So that eye can't penetrate the paint unless you scrape it and you use like a razor blade. If you don't want to do that, that's where this one comes into play. And this one you have to buy an extra pump for it. But it's a really good one too. I think Chris uses that.
Yep. So. And the other one is if you're using a Neptune system, is we use the ATO from Neptune. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, that's basically covering RO. RO is really important. Definitely recommend. It really, if you use RO, you're not going to have nearly as many algae problems in the long run, and your fish are just going to be healthier. Your corals are going to be healthier. Everything's just going to be much better with that. Make sure you keep up on your RO system. You make sure you're changing your filters when you need to be. Make sure that TDS is always 0 and it's low. What is that? The membrane? Yeah. We talked about that too. So we got the membrane here. That's the RO membrane I was talking about before. There it is. So we sell those as well. And those usually want to change like once a year. Like I said, it depends on how much you're using it. But once a year on those guys is definitely usually good. We change ours sooner than that usually. And
the first one to always go is usually the sediment. It's always the sediment,
that one goes the
and then the
fastest.
carbon, and then the Nico exchange.
Yeah.
We do the RODI. The only thing is you'll see that because it's blue. It's like an off greenish blue.
Yep.
And as it runs out, you'll see it's brown. It's running, and you can just see it. Once it's all the way brown, actually we change it right before it's like a quarter brown, and then that's when we usually end up having to change it out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And say it's a color changing resin, which is really nice. That one changes color too, like you said. So that one tells you when it's time. But yeah, so the sediment filter is your first stage. So that one definitely gets dirtiest the fastest. That's where it's getting all that bigger micron sediment that it could possibly damage the filter. So it takes that out. Any other contaminants that are in the water that could affect it are, we've got, like I said, we're just going to review. You got your nitrates, your phosphates, algae problem. Then you've got your chlorines, your chloramines, your heavy metals, not good for your fish. If you use those dechlorinators, you're going to get rid of the chlorine, but you're not going to get rid of a lot of the other stuff that's going to be causing issues as well. So, yeah, that's basically what I've got for you for the RO tonight.
Allie, you are fantastic. There's a reason why we call you Salty Allie here at the OSA. She's always got the answers for every question. And it's amazing where you come out to. Anything else you want to add tonight?
I mean, that's really it. RO systems are good for everything. I still don't have one. I hate to admit it. I still don't have one, but I use RO. I get RO here. We sell RO. We make saltwater here with our RO. It's convenience. It's definitely.
How much is it here?
So we sell our RO for 50 cents a gallon, and then we sell our salt for $1 a gallon. So it's definitely not expensive. It's a nice deal. But in the long run, you're going to save money and just physical labor, having to bring buckets home all the time. I've learned that the hard way. I have to bring buckets home for my 2 tanks all the time. I'm always bringing buckets home. With my living situation, I haven't had one, but I definitely recommend it. It's just definitely, you'll save money. It's easier. And also you can keep track of the water, make sure it's perfect for you all the time. We always do our best, but if you're buying it somewhere, and you're not totally sure, you don't get to keep an eye on exactly what their TDS is, how good it is. So if you have it at home,
that is one of the biggest issues we do run into, because you got to make sure someone's keeping track of what it's at, where it's at. You don't want to be putting those contaminants back into your tank. You're doing the water change. Exactly. My biggest thing is I feel like a 90-gallon under, it's okay to buy RO. You know what I'm saying? It's manageable. You can control that. When you start dealing with those 90 gallons and over, you really should have your own RODI system. And one of the best reasons, the most famous, I can say, reason is anyone that's ever had an anemone that's gone into a power head
just gonna say.
And just blew apart, where it's like, no! It's just, you need to solve that problem as fast as you can, because you can just watch your whole tank. That is the definition of watching a tank crash. You don't solve that right then and there.
Yep, so if you have that water at home, it's already there. You don't have to run out and go get water, because what if it happens at midnight? Now you don't have any water, and now what do you do? So definitely you have.
What would you use for a storage tank? So if I'm going to buy an RO system, okay, we're going to buy an RO. What am I going to put this in?
So it depends on how much water you need. So if you have a big tank, if you have like a 220-gallon tank, 120-gallon tank, you're going to want a bigger tank. So some people will use actually just regular aquariums. Some people use like 65-gallon aquariums. I've heard of people doing that. There's also like the bin, like the storage tanks we have. Ours are huge, but they have smaller ones that you can also use.
And the brute barrels.
And you can also use brute barrels too. So if the big 44-gallon brute barrels, those work really, really well for that. And you just get a circulation pump. You can have 2 barrels. You can have a salt barrel and then an RO barrel. And a lot of people do gravity-fed barrels too, where they put like their RO barrel up high, and it's got just like a little like thing to like open it, a little thing, you just open it and let water out. And you can do that with your salt too. And a lot of people put a pump, kind of like how we have it in their RO barrel, and then they pump it right into their salt barrel, and then you just add salt, and you have a pump in there to circulate it and mix it. You have a heater in there.
I'm going to put in the comment section right below this, I did a video on mixing stations, and I'm going to put that in here. It's an old video. Bear with me. All right, I was it was back in the day. But I'm going to put that in here, and you guys can see what we do a lot for mixing stations. Because if we were going to install an aquarium, say if you're like, I want a 220-gallon saltwater reef tank, we have to install an RO system. Yeah. There's just no way. We could never bring that much water on site. It just doesn't even make sense. The lugging, the trucking, and everything else to do that. So we put in a mixing station where we use 2 large, usually storage vats or chemical containers, And what we do is we make it so there's 2 vats, and they both go into each other, so we can mix all the water, keep RO separated from salted, and keep salted mixed, and then that could feed into another system.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, that's what I would recommend. Like I said, I know the struggle of bringing water to and from home. It's a pain. You don't want to do it. And if you have the RO system, you've got the convenience, you got the peace of mind. It's definitely the way to go.
The biggest issue, though, is if you're not using RO water, in all honesty, you're to keep a reef tank really water quality is the number one. It's the number one. Water,
it's the foundation of your tank.
Total foundation. So if you're already messing up the foundation of the entire start process, you're never going to make it to where you want to be.
If the foundation's not strong, eventually the whole thing's just going to crumble, and that's literally.
And we see it all the time.
Yep.
People get into it and they start doing it in 3 months and 4 months, and they'll start losing this and that and that. And what happens is they're just putting a Band-Aid on something and never really fixing the issue, where it's just so much easier to fix the issue right from day one, solve that problem, and then move forward to really get those results and the success that you want.
Yep. Yeah, and down the road, you're going to be thankful for it because it's just going to cause a lot of issues, just like you said, down the road.
It's awesome, Salty Alley. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, that's it. Just come hang out with us. Tomorrow we're open all day, so definitely. I don't know how the weather's going to be.
We don't have the weather, but guys,
it's going to be a rainy day, so
we did change our hours. We are now open 12 Monday through Saturday, 12 to 7, Sundays 12 to 5. Come join us. We got a bunch of new freshwater and saltwater fishing this week. Place is back. The farm is moving so close. Hopefully we'll get a YouTube video up on Friday of everything that's going on in there. The Radions are in. I can't wait to show you guys. I appreciate it. Anything else at all, Allie?
That's going to be it.
Give me a high five. Woo! Yes! Salty Alley, finish this out.
Keep on reefing, baby.
Woo!